Folks, this is Fernando doing another video for the Modern Survivalists. In this case, it's going to be anti-gun or pro-gun, feminism, and Mad Max Fury Road all mixed in one. Yeah, sounds like a big mess. Stick around because I'm going to be sharing with you at least my take on how to deal, interact, and get along with people of a different mentality than your own. In general, I see that folks within the survival prepper community, whichever you feel defines you the best, have a little bit of a problem getting along, socializing with people of a different mentality, a different opinion, and it really is not in your best interest. So it's good to at least try to get along, and especially if you manage to, there's never a point in fighting, arguing, but yes, there is one in debating, discussing. Many times you end up opening the eyes of some folks. Whenever possible, I'm all for that. As it usually happens, this comes from something else. The previous video was the Mad Max Fury Road review, and one discussion triggers or generates or kickstarts another one, which is maybe more profound, as I think it is in this case. This is because I was thinking about doing this video because of a previous comment in that previous video. This is from Mostly Humble One. He says, Theron by Charlize Theron, the actress in Mad Max Fury Road. Theron is a complete anti-gun nut. I won't see it for that reason. She is still hot as hell, but can't pay her way in the world with her leftist views. Thanks. And my reply to that was the following. I said, don't do that to yourself. It's one of the best movies in recent years, maybe one of the best post-apocalyptic movies made. Besides, if you seriously don't touch anything that someone with a different view was involved in, you'd be butt naked sitting in a raft in the middle of the Atlantic. To which Mostly Humble One replies, thanks, I'll reconsider. Me butt naked in a raft is not a great mental image. Dude, it is kind of like that. If you really don't want to touch anything that someone of a different opinion was involved in or is benefiting from or is linked to in any way, that's exactly how you'd end up. Sometimes it happens with folks in Leatherman tools. The multi-tools. People will not buy Leatherman multi-tools because of Tim Leatherman. I think he's anti-gun, I believe, or something along those lines. So they will say, yeah, I'm not going to be supporting him. Everything that you buy it may end up being linked to someone that it's not. With firearm manufacturers, not all gun manufacturers are alike. Many of these guys are awful people that have not one good intention in mind. The weapons industry, not talking here about small arm industry, but the large military industry, or the larger weapon industry that makes rockets, planes, and all that. These are some of the folks, some of the nastiest people in the world that benefit and lobby in actions that promote violence and war around the world. That is simply a matter of fact. They make trillions out of this kind of stuff. So are they good people? Are they like you? Not at all. They have none of the intentions alike the ones that you have yourself. On the other hand, you have people within the firearms community that are outstanding, very moral people. You have Ronnie Barrett, for example, of Barrett Firearms, those big 50 caliber rifles. He would not sell his rifles to law enforcement in California because of the 50 caliber ban. That's a stance, a moral stance that a guy in the firearms industry took. That is something that we should all applaud. I mean, guys, I got an email about, I think it was like 5 years ago, from one of the big names in the well-known handgun manufacturer, one of those last names that you immediately recognize. I got an email from that guy telling me that he liked my book, my first book, and bought 6 copies, and he was giving it to his family members. I really couldn't believe it. I read the name, and actually it was that guy. So. And definitely that person clearly feels at least that we share certain points of view regarding very important things. But at the same time, you have very complete different people that you cannot simply label folks like that. Like Mostly Humble One says when talking about Charlize Theron, she's a leftist. All these labels, the left, right, Democrat, Republican, or very commonly used, he's a socialist, he's a commie, he's a capitalist on the other side of the spectrum. He's a capitalist, and it's really not that simple. Charlize Theron may have a leftist opinion when it comes to guns, being that she's anti-gun. On the other hand, she probably has a massive fortune that she handles in a very capitalist way. So which one is it? Is she a capitalist, a leftist, right-left? Many times it's all these folks that we think of as liberals have nothing liberal or nothing communist when it comes to handling their own finances. So people are many times complex, and I at least try to think of it the following way. I try to simplify it, but in another way. Is he a good-natured person? Is this a person that at least shares that same goodwill as I have, or is he not? Or is she not that kind of person like I am myself? It's a world in which we are now where all these labels really mean nothing. At the end of the day, we have to understand that the mainstream media and what they promote all the time is owned by folks that have their own interests in mind rather than our own. Now, when it comes to Charlize Theron and her anti-gun stance, I took the time to read a little bit about where she's coming from regarding that, and it turns out that when she was 15 years old, I think it was 1991, she was living in a farm in South Africa. Her drunk, violent father comes back from a bar, starts shooting in her house, saying he's going to be killing her mother and herself. And basically her mom picks a gun and shoots and kills her dad and wounds her uncle. From that moment, she's apparently become a very strong anti-gun advocate. Now, it's curious though, because this could have gone either way, because even though her father was using a gun to try to kill her and her mother used a gun precisely to stop her violent, murderous father. So a gun was used to save lives that same day. And you could see how it could have gone either way. There's a very famous pro-gun advocate. I cannot remember her name right now, but she was in a McDonald's. She had left her gun in her car, and a shooter went into the McDonald's and started shooting people, killing her father and several others. And because of that traumatic incident, she became a very strong gun advocate, because she would say, and correctly so, that if she had a gun, at least she would have something to defend herself and her family. She would have had a chance rather than sitting there waiting to be shot like an animal, right? So it could go either way. I actually read a quote from Charlize Theron. She says that that she comes from South Africa, where there's lots of guns, and she says that when there's lots of guns around and people are drunk and do stupid things, bad things happen. Which that's basically correct, but there's a logical fail there, which is that you cannot reduce liberties and freedoms to the most stupid, lowest common denominator so as to accommodate violent, stupid people. If you end up doing that, you have to ban guns, you have to ban cars, knives, sticks, and rocks. Thus, it does not work that way. So I think that at least there she's having a little bit of an issue. Now, when it comes to the movie Mad Max Fury Road, in which she did actually a great job. So, little lesson there, you shouldn't just get rid of people because there's something that doesn't fit or something that doesn't align with your own view of things. She may be anti-gun and such, which is something that I definitely don't agree with, because I am very much of a pro-gun person myself, but I can admit that she's a great actress and she did a great role in Mad Max Fury Road. Now, ironically enough, the excellent role that she did as Empress Furiosa, I think it's her name, in the Mad Max movie, she is a very strong woman in the movie, in Mad Max. She is a very pro-gun person in Mad Max. She's like a local warlord of a band, and she basically ends up rescuing lots of women that are being taken captive by the local tyrannical maniac. And basically the movie is herself, Charlize Theron as Furiosa, rescuing these women, and Mad Max kind of tagging along. It is a very empowering role for women in the movie. And it's a very feminist role as well. And I mean feminist in a good way, because feminism can be both good in the way of giving women rights that they deserve and empowering them as we should empower men as well. But at the same time, it's not this stupid feminist thing about man hating, which is, not constructive at all. Actually, during the movie, she, at first she meets Mad Max, and then when she sees that he's a good guy, they kind of get along well, and he gives even a second chance to one of the guys that are from the gang that she's escaping from. So she's a very strong woman, but level-headed and smart and very good with guns. Actually, in the movie, there's parts in which she's actually better handling guns and shooting than Mad Max himself. How more pro-gun can you be than being better than Mad Max shooting in a Mad Max movie? Not so much. Now, there's always stupid people. I got a comment here from someone that I already raised it because I don't have patience for that, but talking about how the Mad Max movie was a feminist brainwashing. Dude, that's not the case. Mad Max has always been very pro-woman. If you remember Mad Max 3, Beyond Thunderdome, you have Auntie Entity played by Tina Turner. She was basically running Bartertown. A woman was running Bartertown. She was a very powerful woman figure in the post-apocalyptic world. So don't be blinded like that. Don't be extreme and foolish like that to think that strong women are there's anything bad about it. Not at all. And actually, it's a great role in Mad Max. Lots of little things in Mad Max are extremely pro-gun for women, especially. You have Charlize Theron as Empress Furiosa, being a great shooter, a great fighter, a strong leader. Then you have the women that she's rescuing in certain specific scenes, without giving any spoilers or anything, but in several of the scenes, they are asked to handle weapons, and there's one that is giving a gun and doesn't know how to use it, and she's clearly portrayed as someone that is not useful, as someone that is not helping in a bad situation, precisely because she doesn't know how to use a weapon. And quickly, one that is sitting next to her snatches it out of her and starts figuring out how to use that gun, handling it back to those that are fighting and such, sorting out ammunition. A very Mad Max Fury Road is a very positive, pro-gun movie. So about Charlize Theron's personal stance on this, and if she's anti-gun, that's her own opinion. That's her own, and she has a right to that. I think she's married or something to Sean Penn, who used to be very pro-gun, and then did something very stupid like destroying his 60 guns in a sculpture, and I don't know, Sean Penn may be a great guy, I don't know him, but apparently what he did, at least that is extremely stupid, and you change your mind so quickly about something so important, and the guy later calls himself an alpha male. You're an alpha male and you destroyed your 60 guns because your wife that was involved in an extremely traumatic incident convinced you to do so. I don't know. But going back to her as a character in the movie, the role that she plays is extremely pro-gun. It's extremely empowering for women in a good way, not in a silly, man-hating, hysterical way as we sometimes see being defined as feminism. That's actually, I don't think it's constructive in any way. This, yes, empowering women, and I get this. Folks, I get this all the time. I get it from my website, from my books. I get emails from women that are telling me that they, 50-year-old mom that is now starting to shoot, and she feels great about it, and she feels that she can protect herself and her family. I get even emails from women that asking me advice on how to handle their gun-hating husbands, which is very funny. At least, that's not the typical thing that you would expect, especially in the survival prepper community, but sometimes it does happen. So folks, basically that's my take on some of these things. You have to learn to get along with people that are different from yourself. Sometimes it's not easy, and yes, fighting, arguing, it's a waste of time. Discussing, debating, exchanging ideas, that's always constructive in real life, in forums, but especially face-to-face with people that you come across in life. Every now and then you come across people that are not constructive, and it's a huge waste of time, and you're going to be just fighting for what? No point there. But if not, learn to respect our people's opinion, our people's mind as well, so as to get along. Folks, that's going to be all for now. As always, more stuff coming up, and subscribe to the channel, thumbs up, and that's going to be it. Take care, have a great day, see you on our next video.